In some parts of the Andes, the mountains climb so high that even the birds and the trees can no longer endure. Oxygen is scarce, and even with all the mountains around them, they stand like an island in the sky, higher than the rest. They are magnificent, and the trails in, through, and around them are some of the most beautiful in the world, which is why for years I have dreamed of visiting. I have dreamed of spending days, weeks traveling around them. And for the last month, I prepared for and executed 2 weeks trekking around the Huayhuash circuit. This dream, this opportunity, it's something I will never forget. These mountains, I will never forget. What is going on? Oh man, it is good to be back. Thank you for clicking on this, hopping on, and helping me hop back into reality. I've been in Peru, the middle of the Andes, for about a month now. I just got back a handful of days ago, and to say adjusting to the reality that is home and responsibilities is challenging, to say the least. So, I just wanted to take this video a little bit uncut, a little bit unscripted, to kind of talk about the experience, the trip, some of the highlights of it. I also want to get into some of the photos I took and some of the favorites, a little bit of a breakdown of those. Of course, a mention of gear. What would photos be without the gear, right? And then finish off with this one, major lesson I learned along this trip. Hint, hint, it's related to overextension. I'll get back to that later. Stick with me. And last of all, at the end of the video, if you guys stick with me, I'm gonna kind of talk about one little tip, an easy tip, but not necessarily the most obvious one, that you guys can use with drone photography to take photos like this one. Anyway, thanks for hopping on. Let's just get right into the trip. So back at the start of June, I hopped on a plane and flew for just about 30 hours over 3 separate flights from Christchurch, New Zealand, all the way to Lima, Peru. It is a bodacious flight, and to say you're flying east to South America, kind of a weird concept. But anyway, I went to Lima to meet my dad. We had planned this trip years ago, and it was canceled due to COVID. The premise of the trip is to fly into Lima, take a bus up to a little town called Juarez, otherwise known as the Chamonix of Peru. And from Juarez, we would spend about a week hiking, acclimatizing, getting used to the high altitude, and preparing ultimately for 2 weeks along the Huayhuash Trek. The Huayhuash Trek, if you're not familiar, is about 100 to 180 kilometer circuit around these mountains called the Cordillera Huayhuash. Pronounced horrible. Hey, quick pause, and I'm so sorry to interrupt, but if you guys are enjoying this video, or if you've watched any of the others I've made and enjoyed those, it means the world to me when you take a second to like and especially to subscribe. It's hard to explain just how much that matters on this platform, and more importantly, it tells me what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong. I'm going to be making a whole bunch of videos about my favorite gear, the places I go with it, the adventures that I go on, and all kinds of conceptual concepts related to photography and everything that surrounds it. So if that's interesting to you, take a second to subscribe. If you lose interest, you can always unsubscribe. Anyway, I appreciate having you guys here. It means the world to me, and let's keep this going. The Cordillera Huayhuash is right next to the Cordillera Blanca, those being the famous White Range, the White Mountains of Peru. Some of the biggest mountains in the country, in the continent, and quite frankly, in the whole world. So the Huayhuash circuit has been a dream of ours for a very, very long time. But most of the trek is between 4,400 and 4,800 meters elevation. So to say it's a challenge would be an understatement. You're moving 8 to 12 miles a day, going over a pass or 2 or 3 every day, each one of them harder than the last. And by the end, as you're approaching 100, 120, 130 kilometers, it's like doing a whole new backpacking trip every single day, and it's brutal. But it's absolutely my element. It's my favorite place to be, to feel. Peru in and of itself is, it's unforgettable. It's probably my favorite country in the world. The mountains, very specifically the Andes, broadly speaking, I suppose, are stunning. They're unlike other mountains around the world because they're so colorful, so massive, so culturally diverse. It's like walking into a painting. And from a photographer's perspective, it's an absolute gold mine. I just love being there more than anywhere else. So going back, it's just a thrill, and to be pushed physically and uncomfortable and low oxygen, that's kind of where I actually have the most fun with photography. It means I'm staying on my toes, I'm staying alert, I'm just adapting as best I can, while quite frankly I feel terrible. And the X factor here is that I'm with my dad, who's 62 years old, and we're doing the whole trek independently. Most people hire donkeys or mules and porters and cooks and tents and all these different things, and we decided no, we were going to do it ourselves. I have a 62-year-old dad, and last second my wife was also able to hop on. But I would say out of the three of us, it's most impressive to see someone that's been hiking for many years choosing later in life to do something quite frankly as challenging as they've ever done, and probably as challenging as they'll ever do. And that story was compelling to us, of course, but I actually pitched it to some companies and it became compelling to them too. And it allowed me to take on some commercial opportunities that I carried into the trek. These are with a couple of companies, Hyperlight Mountain Gear and Icebreaker. The work for those two companies I won't be able to share in this video. It's work I'm very proud of and I can't wait to share with you guys. It was also the focus of this trip and a major part of the lesson I'm going to get into later, so bear with me. So this trip, we set out knowing that we had about 10 days on the trail, assuming everything went right. And everything did not immediately go right. About 2 days before starting, I felt a tightness, a pain even in my chest, almost like my breath was hot and labored. And a cough developed, and it turned out that about 2 days into the trek, I was sick as a dog. I was beat down, I had no energy, I felt like I could only see here, no peripherals, total tunnel vision, and I hit an absolute wall. And this is at about 4,400 to 4,800 meters, so between 15 and 16,000 feet all day, every day. It feels terrible when you can't take a breath without coughing up all the dark depths of your lungs. We had to take a day, and we cut a day out of our trek, ultimately a handful of miles that we were going to do on the back end. We pulled those off knowing that there was an earlier exit. We took the day. I drank tea all day, slept all day, took photos all day still, but ultimately rested and recovered nearly entirely. We also opted to hire a single mule to carry a couple of our bags for 1 day after my sickness, just to allow me to keep getting better for 2 full days. After this experience, I was totally fine, good to go, and we continued on with the trek. We had incredible weather for the most part. Everything, I guess, went according to plan as best it could have. To say it's perfect would be a lie, but it's not supposed to be perfect. It's supposed to be challenging, and things are supposed to come up. In hindsight, I wouldn't change a single detail. Even the sickness exposed an element to the story that, proved unique and proved powerful and important for all of us. So we continue on, we got through day 4, day 5, day 6, and all the while we are getting beat down. We're happy, but boy, are we unbelievably tired. 8 or 10 miles a day does wear on you, and our bags being 30 kilos, at least for my bag with camera gear, unbelievable. It just got so exhausting. So as we're going, we're getting more and more tired, but we're also more and more relieved of weight in the bags and more excited about the journey going on. And it's just incredible. It's, a life-defining moment. It was interesting. Everything was interesting. Start to finish, every day had something special. And it reminded me of this way of thinking in photography that I actually picked up listening to an interview from Renan Ozturk. And that's When you're trying to photograph an adventure or an expedition or a multi-day project, you want to try to pull one great image out of every day. Every day, just one great image, and then everything around it, that's the story. That's what builds it all together and builds the narrative that you can ultimately tell through your writing, through YouTube videos, through blog posts, whatever it may be. But I had this idea in my head the whole time, one good image a day, and I'd be happy. And I think I got that. I think I got one good image a day. Great. I don't know if I've ever looked at an image of mine and thought, man, that's great. So that's a tough one to say, but good, yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy with the images. And I'm gonna go ahead and share a handful here. As you're looking at these, you should know that they come from an assortment of cameras. The gear that was predominantly used throughout the trip is first and foremost the one that you guys are looking at me through, and that's gonna be the Nikon Z8. I said in a video a couple weeks back that I'll link up here that this is my do or die camera. This is the one that I will hold until it falls apart in my hands, which I never expect it to do because it's built like an absolute tank. The Nikon Z8 is my chariot and I will ride it to the end of days. It is my favorite camera of all time. There's nothing else to say. And it did exactly the job it was supposed to. The second camera that produced the images I am most proud of is a bit of a surprise on this channel, because in that video where I talk about the gear I'm bringing, again linked above and down below in the description, I talk about all the cameras I'm going to bring on the trip, and I inadvertently lied to you guys. That's just the truth of it. Shortly before that video was made, I picked up this, the Fujifilm X-T5. My secret truth is I am a big Fuji lover. The Nikon Z8 is my do or die camera, but I actually got into photography by using a Fujifilm X-T2. Now you might be wondering, why would I have picked up a non-Nikon camera to bring with me on a trip? Doesn't that take up a ton of space in the bag? Isn't that just expensive? They don't share lenses. And to some extent, all these things are relatively true, but here is my reasoning. One, I needed a backup camera. So if the Nikon dies and I'm in the middle of the backcountry and I have commercial work, I need a second camera that's there, it's in the bag, and it's ready to go, and I know I can produce the worthy content that earns me the reputation I want these projects to earn me. Now, yes, that could have been another Nikon camera. I love everything about these Fuji cameras. That is just the truth of it. The second reason is my wife shoots Fujifilm, so we already have some lenses about. This 16 to 80 being the main one, and I know that if I put that lens, the 16 to 80, which is a 24 to 120 millimeter equivalent, if I toss that on an X-T5 and put that in the bag, I can take full series of photos of anything, anywhere in the world, anytime. This is my lost on an island camera and lens setup. I can do anything with this. So this, while not being tiny, I can put this little setup in a bag and I know I can conduct a commercial shoot. So that is why I brought that. And then the reason number 3 is I just love Fujifilm. I know it, I know it's tough. The image quality is superb. The autofocus has come so far that it does absolutely everything I need. The lens is brilliant, it's sharp, it's useful. And I just get the cameras, and I know that this one would do the job. So to me, that matters. And final point, it's quite a bit cheaper than the other options that were on the market from Nikon. So then we have the DJI Mavic 3 Classic. This guy produced many of my favorite images from the trip. I will show some of these above, and hold on until the end for that tip regarding how to get an image like that, because this was just so fun. On top of that, it's great for video. You guys have seen some of the clips already, and I'll keep showing them. It just is a blast to use, super fun, and it produces incredible image quality. I don't need the Pro or the Cinema or anything because I don't need those special lenses or the built-in hard drive. This drone does what I need, and actually it does a lot more than what I need. It's just superb, and it's a drone for me to grow into, quite frankly. In terms of lenses, I had to pare down at the last second. I intended to bring the 17 to 28, my wide angle zoom, the 70 to 180, a telephoto, and the drone, and that was going to be it. What I ended up doing is bringing the 17 to 28, and then this little surprise, probably a 60-year-old film camera lens that I adapt using this K&F Concepts adapter. It's a bright prime, it's as sharp as I ever need, and once you're on the Nikon Z8 with some focus peaking set in, it works like a charm. And I absolutely love the vintage look of this, and I produce a lot of my commercial work with this. You might be surprised. Work I'm selling to big companies is taken with this old lens, so that's worth probably $30 or $40. And then, like I said, the 16 to 80 on the Fujifilm X-T5. Now this camera and this lens I'm gonna make a whole bunch of videos about because I just freaking love this thing and I want to. Last up, the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. This thing is incredible. I love it for YouTube. I absolutely love it for video, but in all truth, I did not use it on this trip very much because I was overextended. That brings me into the main thing that I learned on this trip. I had every intention of filming YouTube videos galore. I was gonna vlog the whole time. I wanted to bring you guys along on every step of the process, and I wanted to teach you things, and I wanted you to experience things with me, and that's why I brought this. I also had 2 major commercial opportunities that I was working on with a long list of deliverables in the range of a dozen or more photos, more like 20 to 30 photos each, Instagram posts, video projects associated, and written pieces. This means I was taking notes and taking photos like an absolute madman morning to night every day, focused just on that. Then I have a journalism aspect. I had every intention and have been pitching an article to all kinds of different magazines. So I wanted to make sure that I was taking the photos necessary from a journalistic perspective. And then, on top of all that, I want to focus on my own personal work, my personal eye, my personal creativity. Between these 4 major segments, I was set up to fail. I could fail at some of them without consequence. I could fail at focusing on YouTube, quite frankly. And that is why I didn't vlog. And I'm sorry to you guys because I would love to have brought you along from that perspective. But I did take hundreds and hundreds of videos to use as visual supplement to any videos I make that are related to Peru so that you guys can still be there. But I didn't vlog, I didn't have the time, I didn't have the brain power. It was something I had to sacrifice because I was on contract with commercial partners and I needed to succeed in that realm. That was where I was unwilling to compromise more than anywhere else. I then could compromise on journalism. And I would argue that it was an accident, but I don't have as many photos as I would like for the magazine article I'd like to write. And that's going to be a challenge for me to work through. We'll see. I need to still digest my photos and see if I can put together a photo story. And all of this boiled down to this feeling of being pulled left, right, center, backwards at all times. And how am I backing things up? And is that photo sharp? And should I be experimenting with lenses? And how many lenses should I have? And it just became challenging. And all the while, I'm on an adventure that is a lifetime adventure with my dad and my wife. Very specifically, an adventure that my dad and I have dreamt up forever and one that will likely never be replicated. And I wanted to be present emotionally and physically in that moment. I needed to be there for him and for myself and my own goals and emotions, and I just couldn't compromise on that. And it boiled down to a sense of overextension in many ways, but I balanced it as best I could. Like I said, where I sacrificed most is in the realm of vlogging, and to you guys, I am sorry for that. I wish I could have done more for you, but I hope you enjoy all the videos that come out of this because there's still a lot of great content. That's the rundown of the trip. There's going to be a lot more put into this over the next handful of videos, so stay patient with me. I'll get through these. Like I said, there is a little lesson here at the end that I wanted to leave you guys with, and this is just a kind of a nugget for you to use. I have struggled with drone focal lengths, right? I think especially in a big place, even these wide lenses on these things are not quite wide enough. So what I use to get photos like this and this is stitching. I use a process wherein I am flying the drone low enough so that I'm within regulations, I'm not breaking any laws, and I take a photo, a photo, a photo, a photo from the foreground up to the background, just like I would with my normal camera. And what it does is it creates this immensity, this sensation that you are higher than you are, and it makes for a very big, grand photo. You can even do columns, so photo, 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 and so forth. Stitch these together in Lightroom. I just use the Create Panoramas function, and it just does it brilliantly. And that's how my favorite drone photos are made nearly every single time. So I hope that tidbit helps you guys. If you want me to talk more about that process or other drone tips in any other videos, let me know. I will. And with that, guys, thank you for coming along today. It's so good to be back. I'm sorry I took the month off. It's hard to make a YouTube video when you're out of service for 2 weeks, but I promise to be consistent with you. And I hope this video is interesting. All right, I appreciate you guys. Have a good one.